Hello, everybody. Welcome to Talk About Houses. I'm Todd.
I'm Juana.
Okay, first of all, before we get started, where did you get that amazing outfit?
I got it in Greece.
Great. Where in Greece?
Athens.
Athens, Greece. Very nice.
Yes.
It looks very Adriatic.
Yes, it is very
Super.
Adriatic.
You should have like an Aperol spritz while we're doing the. Are we allowed to do that? I think we have. There's a thing when we load the video, it makes us tell us like alcohol's involved.
Does it really?
Yeah, it's one of the things I have to click. Like, there's no firearms involved. Like, we have to disclose certain things.
That's wild.
Yeah. So, anyway.
Okay, moving on.
Okay. Today's going to be a great video. What we're going to do, we got a bunch of great charts. We got some of these from a blog. We got some of them from Fannie Mae. These are sort of like a visual picture of what's going on in the housing market. And the Fannie Mae ones are not only housing forecast, but economic forecast. So those will be fun. We've got a lot of like super granular numbers that we'll go through on all these. And just talk about them, how they affect housing.
Lots of charts. Stay tuned, relax, and enjoy the charts. Let's go.
Okay, we're just going to jump into charts as the first chart. Now what this is this is the supply and demand trend lines. Now this is May 2022 to May 2023. So ignore the fact that even though this is like a brand new blog post, this is just the latest data that they've put. But what they show in this, that yellow line, we'll start with that, it's existing home sales. That is the annual rate of home sales that occurred at that time. So as you can imagine, all the way to the left, May 2022 was a very high rate. It was a pretty high rate because people were like, the last gasp of buyers were buying up inventory. And then you can see the decline because there weren't many transactions happening because interest rates were going up. And then they started going up again, and they've sort of settled down again. Okay, the next one is inventory. And you can see that inventory nationally has gone up to 1.8 million, but that's as of May. It's actually declined a little bit since then. And then the last thing is sales price. You can see it basically looks like it was pretty much the same time in May of 22 from 2023. We know not only nationally, but here in Vegas, home prices are up just over the last few months since May. So anyway, I thought that was a pretty cool chart. But this is the coolest chart. We're going to spend some time on this chart. Okay, so this is affordability and supply. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to explain what the chart is. Okay, this is not home prices. That left column is income. So you go into the table with your income or some income. That first column is the share of listings in the whole U.S. you could afford to buy at that income based on, let's call it today, right? Now, the second column is what you should if the market was balanced. Historically, call it balanced, right? And then that right column is the number of listings that are missing, and it's the difference between the two. It's the number of listings missing between the two. So it's how many listings you can no longer afford. So I'll just give you an example. We'll just go to 50,000. Okay, 10.8% is the number of homes in the U.S. you could afford to buy. 34.8 should be the amount you could buy. And there's 273,970 missing listings because they're now unaffordable for you, right?
Right. So the difference between the homes that you can buy and you should be able to buy isn't necessarily price, but it's simply the amount of inventory available to you in that price range.
Right. And it also does include it's everything. It's like the mortgage rate currently right now as of April, and also the number of this is April 2023.
Okay,
and then the actual the interest rate and the number of homes available. That's what you're looking at. Okay, so Juan, let's do some deep dive on this. First of all, clearly if you make $50,000 a year, you probably can't afford to buy anything in California.
You can't afford to buy anything in most of the expensive places in the nation. It's not just California. I mean, you can't afford it in California, can't afford it in New York, can't afford it in
the whole Northeast.
Right. Yeah.
A lot of the eastern seaboard, probably.
Right.
Okay. Certainly Boise, Idaho, places like that, right?
Right. Okay. Not in Seattle, not in Dallas, not in lots of places.
Okay. What's interesting about this is where the people are being crushed. Okay, let's go to the 500,000 people who make 500,000 a year, right? You normally in a balanced market you can buy 97.3%. There's only 2.7% of homes you wouldn't be able to buy, right? Well, right now you can buy 94.6%, but you can still basically buy all the homes. The number of homes is marginally less, okay? Now let's go to 50,000. It's 10.8% when you should be able to buy almost 35%, more than a third. Like you can buy less than a third of the number of houses you could buy in a balanced market at $50,000 income.
What struck me about this chart was that the people that are getting crushed the most, if you look at the number of listings that are missing from the market, the highest numbers are for the middle class, right? 50,000 to 150,000. That's the middle class. And those are the people who are missing the most listings, and those are the people who are the buyers out there looking and not finding anything. Everybody else, there's a smaller number of them, a smaller number of buyers, and there's a smaller number of listings and that sort of thing. So, but I think the greatest number of people that are hurt by this are the middle class.
And when Wanda says like middle class 150,000, just keep in mind that if you live in the Bay Area or New York City or someplace like that, you probably have a much higher income than if you live in Enid, Oklahoma,
right,
or McAllen, Texas, right?
So
150,000 in McAllen, Texas, you are super rich,
right. And I understand that. What I'm saying is that 50,000 to 150,000 represents the middle class over the nation, right? In all the different markets.
Okay. But you can see that the high income earners, so here's like one of the things to point out. The people at the low end really never had a huge amount of properties they could buy. And even when they did, it was very difficult because they were competing against cash investors, okay? So they were having to sort of, maybe that percentage of the market were all condos, okay? What's interesting is that what this tells me is that the people at the upper end of the spectrum, the people with very high incomes, when they buy a house, they're not pushing the, in general, limit of what they can buy all the way up to their maximum. If you're an airline pilot, make $400,000 a year, that doesn't mean you're going to run out there and have a $20,000 a month mortgage payment. You're probably like a lot of other people, just like, hey, I'm just going to buy a house and pay it off and save all the money and do whatever. You just have more options, meaning you could, if you make $400,000, you probably have 90% of the homes on the market you could buy. But doesn't mean you go to the most expensive home you can buy and buy it. Whereas if you're at 20, 30, or 50,000, you might do that because that might be the difference between a really crappy area or like an old house that's way far out of town versus, a newer place, maybe closer to a city or some like nicer thing.
Right. Yeah, so this was a really interesting chart for me because, like I said, it really showed the people that are most affected by the lack of listings. Okay,
the next charts we're going to go through are Fannie Mae. This first one is the housing forecast. Okay, there are a lot of numbers in here, so I'm going to leave this up on the screen. If hopefully you're watching this on like your Apple TV, we watch we just watched the All In Pod on the Apple TV.
Yeah.
That's one of our favorite podcasts to watch, the All In Pod. We know one of the four guys if you watch the thing, but we're not going to tell you which one. Okay. So here's the stuff about this. All the gray stuff is an estimate for the end of the year, and everything in white's already happened. So what Fannie Mae is estimating, if you go down there, they have two very important kind of in the middle. One is the percent change quarterly, year-over-year, and annual for the home price index, Fannie Mae, okay? Right below that is interest rates, what they're projecting. So the first one is Fannie Mae Home Price Index. They're projecting for the third quarter 3.5% home price growth, and then 3.9% for the fourth quarter of 2023. And then 2024, 2.6%, 0%. And remember that 0% is from the second quarter. and then minus zero point 0.1, minus 0.7. So they're still projecting home prices up, almost over 3% between now and the end of 2024. But just they are projecting it to tail off there, and we'll talk about that when we do the economic numbers. What's interesting thing is they do project that mortgage rate. It's now 6.87 to 6.8. They project that going to 6.5, 6.3, 6.2, and 6.0 by the end of 2024. And then you can see all the other numbers on this chart.
Yeah, so this is probably a projection that one of the few that I've agreed with.
Okay.
That I can see interest rates hitting pretty close to 6% by the end of next year. I can see that.
Okay.
Generally, I'm of a mind that we're going to be more closer to 6.25%, but I'll sign off on the 6%. Those people that were envisioning 4.5% and 5%, I think they're very optimistic.
Yeah, there were a couple that estimated that, wasn't it?
Yes.
And then the other thing they're projecting in 2024, predicting that the number of homes sold will be about the same as 2023.
That's probably true. Yeah.
And remember, this probably will be more a function of lack of supply than people just don't want to buy houses anymore.
No, people do want to buy houses. That's not the issue. Every day that passes, there are more people that want to buy houses, not less. The issue is the lack of inventory.
Right. Okay. The next chart we're going to do is the economic forecast for the whole country. So what's interesting about this is they're actually predicting the CPI increases. This is inflation. As you can see, back in 2022, we had 8.6, 8.3, 7.1. They're predicting by the end of the year, fourth quarter, 3.2. And then all of next year, the high twos, 2.9, 2.8. So they are predicting that in the CPI, which is inflation, will, and I don't know if this is core or total CPI, but they're predicting it will go down. And that's the biggest thing on here is that. Also on unemployment rate. This is a very good one. If you go down the bottom, it says quarterly annual average. The first one's unemployment. Also has federal funds rate, the 1-year treasury, 10-year treasury. Unemployment rate. It's funny because it's at 3.5, which is literally the lowest it's ever been. And they're predicting it to go up to 4 and is 4.9 by the end of 2024. I think they're predicting that these interest rates will have sort of a drag on the economy, but 5% is considered full employment.
It is. And the thing is, though, with an election year, there's just so much, there's just so many variables in an election year, right? As we go through the debates and as we go through the primaries, you're going to see a lot of fluctuation. You're going to see a lot of businesses try to figure out how this is all going to shake out. And we know this because, historically, depending on who gets elected, that the day after the election, the stock market does, goes one way or the other, depending on what it perceives this election means to them. So I think that it's too early to call something like that. I think we need to just kind of stick with the economic fundamentals and sort of ignore the political aspect of it for a while longer. I just think it's going to be a fun election year. I'm just going to say that. It's going to be a fun election year.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting people
that
are involved in that. The other thing is, I think it's interesting, is they're still predicting federal funds rate at the end of 2024 to be 4.4. It's pretty high.
Well,
I think they're not predicting a recession, because if they were, then they would probably be projecting that to be lower. They would be anticipating some sort of Fed action, don't you think?
I think they might be. I don't see the Fed really doing much to lower the interest rates, and I've said this before, because I think that the Fed is much more concerned with inflation, because inflation is what hurts people the most and what hurts the economy the most. And while I think the Fed would love to lower interest rates, not to help housing or to help businesses, but so that the cost for the government to keep borrowing money, to borrow from Peter to pay Paul, would be lower. But I don't see that happening. I don't see that being a possibility.
Okay. Now that we've showed you the really hard to read charts, very granular, very detailed. We're going to go in and show you some pretty fun, colorful charts that I found on a blog. This first one's home prices. Now, as you just saw, Fannie Mae's predicting 3.9% home price growth. Mortgage Bankers Association basically rolled to zero. They're just like zero. So they basically are guessing, right?
Well, they're all guessing.
They're all guessing.
But, some are more educated guesses than others.
NAR minus 0.4%, Realtor minus 0.6%. What's interesting is what's not here is Zillow. Zillow has the rosiest outlook. They said like 5.8% appreciation.
Bless Zillow. I like Zillow. You're right. They're just the most optimistic, and it suits them to be optimistic because their optimism is part of their business plan, and it's part of their marketing plan, and it plays such an important role in how they generate revenue.
But what's interesting is a lot of people, Zillow, like the average consumer doesn't care about Fannie Mae, NAR, or Mortgage Bankers Association, or Freddie Mac. Zillow, like they would listen to Zillow.
Well, there's a difference between listening to Zillow and what actually happens in the marketplace.
Just remember, the I in Zillow, no, the A in Zillow stands for accuracy.
Yes.
And the I in Zillow stands for intelligence. Okay, next chart, mortgage rates. This is I kind of think this is not unreasonable here. Like this is probably reasonable, So the Fannie, MBA, and NAR have predicted their mortgage rates. Surprisingly round numbers. Fannie Mae 6.8, MBA 6.6. So the average of the three by the end of this quarter is 6.63. We're getting pretty close. So we'll see. And then average at the end of the year, 6.27. So they're saying it'll drop a little bit by the end of the year.
Well, to me, that's just so close. And when you're looking at national numbers, it'll be such a long time before they reconcile that and make sense of it. That will be through the first quarter by then.
And remember, there are ways to get under 5% rates right now.
Look, there are always ways to get better rates. It's just a matter of having the right solution for the right situation.
Yeah, there are different loan programs that this is just a 30-year conventional thing that's quoted. That's not the rate every single person gets. If you do a VA or you have a portfolio, your portfolio client for a big bank, they'll give you a smoking deal on like 1% less than whatever the going rate is.
Right.
And then if you do 15, you're going to maybe knock another 0.5% off of that.
Right. And then if you do one of the more creative loans where you have maybe a fixed rate for a couple years and then it adjusts, that's another way to deal with it. So there are lots of ways to deal with it. Depending on your situation, you can find something that is completely amazing. So chat with your favorite lender and see what they can do for you.
And then they're all basically saying here, home sales, about 5 million. Mm-hmm. Now remember, this is all homes. This does not just resale. This is all home sales. It includes new homes. Basically what they're saying, it'll be like 4.3 million resales, which is, I think, where we're headed. And then, which is all the numbers that we measure. And then the other ones we have to get from the National Association of Home Builders, probably 700,000 from them. But that's not enough, right? We already did a video on that. 700,000 homes a year being sold as new homes. Remember, we have 140 million homes, and we have net immigration of we're adding like 4 million people a year still to the country. Mm-hmm. So 700,000 homes isn't enough. We need, those are rookie numbers. We need better numbers. Remember, we lose between, 120?
We lose about 250,000 homes to either natural disasters or fires or simply being obsolete. They just fall apart.
Hurricanes every year.
Yeah.
250,000 homes disappear.
Sure.
We built 700,000. We've added 500,000 homes. We have 4 million people move here, and then where do they go? They move into apartments or whatever because there's not enough homes.
So it doesn't mean that people can't put a roof over their head. It just means that they can't be homeowners.
Anyway, so that's kind of what we want to do today. We just want to dive into these charts and talk about some of the factors, what's going on. We do spend a lot of time, trying to understand the economy. We both have a background in this, and we do understand real estate, especially transactional real estate. When I say transactional real estate, I mean between home sales or flips, we've sold over 3,000 houses. So we actually understand the whole mechanics of it, all the, how it works, all the stuff that's like fake that you watch on these stupid reality TV shows that doesn't actually exist. So.
Absolutely. So just like, on HGTV, they will completely renovate a house in about 20 minutes. That's probably not realistic. Same thing with all these numbers. You have to really understand what's going on and put all the pieces together, because there are a lot of different pieces. And when you put the whole puzzle together, then that paints a much truer picture than just looking at a few pieces.
Yep.
Okay, so please remember to like the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share the video, leave us comments, tell us where you're watching from, what you think. We're interested in your thoughts, in your opinions. If you have interesting data for us, please feel free to share a link with us. Please be nice to one another in the comments, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye.
Bye.